If you're just joining us, this is a place where we take down the walls brick by brick, pull back the curtain on life's rawest moments. Because around here, nothing has ever been off limits, and it never will be. Life, death, the mess, and a few stories I'd honestly rather forget, but I'm going to share them anyway. And this season on The Mortals, we're diving deeper than ever, exploring the truth behind the masks we wear and the moments that nearly break us. And today's episode is called Echoes from the Brink. And it's about three people who stared into the abyss of death and somehow walked away, guided by forces that they cannot explain. And these are true stories, not the ones that you've heard 100 times, but the hidden gems of survival that'll make you question what's really out there watching over you. Maybe you've had a moment like that in your life. You felt something pull you back from the brink. Hold that thought as we dive in. You're listening to The Mortals, where we talk about life, death, and everything beautifully, messily human in between. New episodes drop every Tuesday and Thursday, so if you want stories that'll make you feel a little more alive and maybe a little less alone, mark your calendar, set a reminder, tie a string around your finger, tattoo it on your arm even, whatever works. And if you haven't hit follow yet, now is your chance. Go ahead. You need to click it because otherwise, rumor has it, you're going to end up at a family reunion where everyone decides to reenact your most embarrassing childhood moment in a full-blown musical number, complete with choreography and a kazoo orchestra. You're welcome for that one. Don't let that be your legacy. Just hit follow. Before we get into today's story, I have some very exciting news. My new single, Breakthrough, is dropping June 27th. This song is about pushing through the darkest of moments, finding light on the other side, and I find it perfect for the stories that we tell right here. I actually wrote it thinking about the times that we've all felt stuck, like the weight of the world is on us, and somehow we keep going. It's the little wins, my friends. You can pre-save it now using the link in the description, and make sure you're the first to hear it by doing so. And while you're at it, stream my existing releases anywhere that you listen to music. I would appreciate it because your support means the world to me. Okay, let's get into these incredible tales of survival. Our first story takes us to the icy roads of Spanish Fork, Utah on a cold March night in 2015. Lynn Groesbeck, a 25-year-old single mother, was driving home with her 18-month-old daughter, Lily, strapped into the back seat. Lynn was exhausted. She'd been working long hours as a medical assistant, juggling bills and motherhood, always putting on a brave face even when it was extremely tough. You know that kind of tired, right? When you're running on fumes, you're pushing through for someone you love, even though every bone in your body just wants to collapse. You almost feel cross-eyed. That was Lynn that night, around 10:30 p.m., navigating a familiar stretch of road near the Spanish Fork River. The temperature was hovering near freezing, and a light drizzle made the asphalt slick. Lynn's old sedan didn't handle well in bad weather, but she was just a few miles from home, so she could make it. Or so she thought. What Lynn didn't see was a patch of black ice just beyond a curve. Her tires hit it, and in an instant, the car spun out of control. It veered off of the road, crashed through a cement barrier, and plunged into the shallow but frigid waters of the river below. The impact was brutal. The car landed on its roof, partially submerged, hidden from the road by overgrown brush. Lynn was knocked unconscious. Her body slumped over the steering wheel, blood trickling from a head wound. And little Lily, miraculously, was still alive in her car seat, but the freezing water was creeping in, and the temperature inside the car dropped extremely fast. I can't even imagine the helplessness, being trapped, unable to protect someone you'd give anything for, while the world just keeps moving along without you. Hours passed. No one saw the wreck. The road wasn't heavily traveled at night, and the car was invisible in the dark. It was on its roof. Remember, the undercarriage, which was exposed, is black. Lynn remained unconscious, her body going into shock from the cold, and Lily cried weakly, her tiny body shivering. By all accounts, this should have been the end. A tragic accident discovered too late. We've all had those moments where we feel forgotten, like no one's coming to help. But something had other plans for Lynn and Lily. Around 12 hours later, just after 10 a.m. the next morning, a fisherman named Tyler was walking along the riverbank looking for a quiet spot to cast his line. He noticed something extremely odd, a glint of metal. And as he got closer, he realized it was an overturned car. He called out, but there was no response. And with his heart pounding, he dialed 911. And within minutes, a team of first responders arrived, including Officer Jared Warner, and they waded into icy waters, expecting the worst. The car was a tomb of silence. But as they approached, something impossible happened. They heard a voice. It was faint but clear. A woman's voice coming from inside the car, pleading, "Help me, help us." The officers froze, looking at each other in disbelief. Officer Warner later said it sounded desperate, like someone fighting for their life. Adrenaline surged. They shouted back, "We're coming! Hold on!" They worked frantically, using tools to pry open the car that they had in their vehicles, but when they finally got inside, what they saw didn't make any sense. Lynn was still slumped over, unresponsive, her skin pale and cold. She'd been dead for hours, likely since shortly after the crash, according to the coroner's later report. Lily was alive, but barely, hypothermic and fading fast. There was no way Lynn could have spoken. So whose voice did they hear? Have you ever felt like someone was there for you even when logic says that they couldn't have been? These officers were shaken, of course. They got Lily out, wrapped her in blankets, and rushed her to the hospital. She survived, against all odds, after days in intensive care, but the voice haunted the officers. All four responders, Tyler, Jared, and two others, swore they heard it. It wasn't a child's cry. It was an adult woman, clear as day. In interviews later, they speculated. Was it Lynn's spirit lingering to save her daughter? Was it something else, a guardian force no one can name? Science, of course, offers no answers. Hypothermia can cause hallucinations, sure, but four people hearing the same voice at the same time, that's harder to dismiss. I mean, I've had moments in my own life where I've felt guided, like a little nudge that I couldn't explain. And maybe you have too. Those times you can't shake that feeling that something bigger was at play. Lynn's family believes it was her. Her sister Jill said in a local news interview, she loved Lily more than life itself. If there was any way she could protect her, even after death, she would. Today, Lily is a healthy, young girl living with relatives, unaware of the voice that saved her. But for those officers, the echo from that frozen car is a mystery they'll carry forever. A reminder that sometimes when death seems certain, something beyond us calls back. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? Who's watching over us when we're at our most alone? Real quick, I just want to put you onto something that completely leveled up how I create. If you've ever thought about starting a podcast or even creating content that looks good and sounds next level, but you say, I don't have the equipment, Descript. And it just dropped something ridiculously wild. It's AI avatars. Say you're terrible in front of a camera, but just imagine being able to generate a video where you read the script, but you don't hit record. You write it. Descript makes it look like it's you saying it, and it looks really good. It doesn't look awkward, not robotic, it's seamless. If you pair that with what Descript already does with helping me with my podcast, editing with text-based, and if you're creating anything, a podcast or content for socials, or even you're just making videos, do not sleep on this. Go to get.descript.com/Nathan Morris to try it for free right now. That's get.descript.com/Nathan Morris. Link is also in the description. Now, back to the mortals. The story of Lynn and Lily is one of those that sticks with you. An echo from nowhere, pulling life from the jaws of death. It's the kind of thing that makes you think about your own close calls. Those times you've walked away from something and thought, how in the world did I make it through that? And we've got another incredible near-death tale coming up, one that'll take you to the edge of human endurance. But first, let me remind you about something exciting. My new single, of course, Breakthrough. It's releasing on June 27th. It's a track that is inspired by stories just like these, moments where we face the impossible and somehow we come out stronger. I wrote it during this time when I felt like I was drowning in my own struggles, and I know so many of you have been there too. Maybe you just don't want to articulate it. Music became my lifeline and my way to process it all. Pre-save Breakthrough now using the link in the description so you don't miss out. And if you're craving more of my music, you can stream my existing releases wherever it is you listen to your music. And of course, this podcast, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever. I want you to know your support fuels this podcast, and I'm so grateful for you. Now let's get to our second story of survival against all odds. You know, on this podcast, we dive into deep things such as tough moments, the mysteries, the unknowns, and the human connections that keep us all going. Today, I want to share with you a piece of the connection that means something to me. And that's my merch line, wearable reminders of what truly matters. And I want to talk to you about a few of my favorites, like the white smiley tee. Sure, it's a white tee. You got some distressed black that says when you wear it, hey, even on tough days, let's find a reason to smile. Or you could check out the cute flame sweatshirt. You can't wear these without smiling. It's a black cozy piece, cartoon flame on the front that has this smiling face. It spreads warm and light. I love it. Or you can't miss the casual coffin sweatshirt. Dudes wearing sunglasses, rocking them. It blends humor. It blends this depth to remind us to live boldly or that our lives matter. And you can find these and more, the link in the show notes. And why merch? Well, I'll tell you why. It's simple. I believe spreading kindness, not the gross stuff that we sometimes face in life. Each of these designs, obviously, they mean something. It's a little nudge. It's a little way to wear positivity, start conversations, and show the world that we're in it together. It's about building community, something that I believe in, and one that lifts each other up, even through foggy, hard times that we talk about here on The Mortals. Here's the best part, my friends. A portion of every one of your purchases at the merch store benefit the Lifeline, 988 in the United States, which is a vital resource for anyone needing support in crisis. So when you grab a tee or a sweatshirt or a vinyl, you're not just wearing kindness, you're funding it too. Head to the link in the description, pick up something that speaks to you, and help keep spreading light. I appreciate you being a part of this journey in the Mortals and for supporting what it is we're doing here. All right, back to the show. Our second story takes us to the scorching sands of the Sahara Desert in 1994, during one of the most grueling endurance races in the world, the Marathon des Sables. This isn't just a race. It's a 156-mile, 6-day ultra-marathon across some of the harshest terrain on Earth. Competitors carry their own food and gear, battling temperatures over 120 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a test of human limits. And for 39-year-old Mauro Prosperi, an Italian police officer and seasoned runner, it was the ultimate challenge. He trained for months, driven by a need to prove himself after a very tough divorce. We've all had those moments where life knocks you down and you're desperate to show yourself and maybe the world that you still got that fight left in you. And that was Mauro, stepping into the desert with everything to prove. But the Sahara doesn't care about your personal battles. That place is a place where nature can kill you in a heartbeat. On the fourth day of the race, April 14th, 1994, Mauro was in good spirits. He'd covered over 100 miles already, pacing himself among the middle of the pack. The day started with a briefing. Sandstorm was forecast, but organizers assured everyone it would be just minor. Mauro strapped on his backpack, filled with dried food, water, and a compass, and set off with hundreds of others across the endless dunes. Around noon, the wind had picked up. Sand began to sting his face, and visibility dropped. What was supposed to be a minor storm turned into a monster. Winds hit 60 miles per hour, creating this wall of sand that swallowed the horizon. Mauro pulled his scarf over his face, squinting to see the markers that guided the course and the runners. Then, in a split second, he lost sight of them. He was alone. Panic set in slowly. Mauro checked his compass, but the storm made it useless. Sand jammed the needle. He shouted for other runners, but the howling wind drowned him out. He decided to hunker down, digging in a small shelter in the sand to wait. Hours passed. When the wind finally died down after 8 hours, the landscape totally changed. Dunes had shifted, landmarks totally gone. Mauro was disoriented, with no idea where the course was. He had enough water for maybe a day, food for 3 if rationed. He picked a direction based on the setting sun and just started walking, hoping to find a checkpoint. But the Sahara is vast, over 3.5 million square miles. He was a speck in an ocean of sand. Think about that. That must have been a sinking feeling of not knowing which way was up or down. And Mauro, his stakes were life or death. Days passed. Mauro's water had run out on day 2 of being lost. His lips were cracked. His throat was burned. He resorted to drinking his own urine, a desperate survival tactic he'd read about. Food dwindled to crumbs. By day 4, he was delirious, his skin blistered from the sun. He later told reporters he considered ending it all with a penknife, even writing a goodbye note to his family in the sand. But something stopped him. Haven't we all been there? That breaking point. A memory, a promise, or stubbornness is what pulls us from it. Mauro, on day 5, stumbled over a dune, near collapse, and that's when he saw something. A shimmer on the horizon. Not a mirage of water, but a structure. A very small, abandoned shrine used by nomadic tribes. Inside, he found shade and, incredibly, a few bats roosting in the ceiling. Out of sheer desperation, he caught them, drank their blood, and ate their raw flesh. It brought him a few more hours. But Mauro was still dying. His body was shutting down. He felt it. His mind was slipping. On day 8, as he lay in the shrine, too weak to even move, he heard something. A low hum like an engine. He thought it was another hallucination. He'd been having them. His mind had been tricking him with false hopes numerous times before, but this sound grew louder. He dragged himself outside, squinting into the blinding sun. A helicopter. A real one. It was a French military aircraft, part of a search effort launched after race organizers reported Mauro missing. Mauro waved his arms, screaming with what little strength he had. His voice, his throat burned. The pilot, though, saw him. They landed, and medics rushed by his side. He'd lost 40 pounds. His organs were failing, but he was alive. He was lost 9 days. He covered over 180 miles off course, surviving on bat blood and sheer will. Could you imagine? You realize you're not alone anymore, that someone's finally found you, that feeling that you may have craved before. Later in the hospital, Mauro learned just how close he'd come to death. Doctors said another 12 hours and he'd been gone. But what haunts him isn't this physical ordeal, it's what he felt in those final moments in the shrine. He swears he heard this voice, and it wasn't his own, of course. It's not the helicopter, but it was a calm, steady echo, and it was in Italian, saying, "Hold on, they're coming." He cannot explain it. He says it as a guardian spirit from the desert. Mauro, a pragmatic man, doesn't claim to know anything else. In interviews, he said, "Something wanted me to live. I felt it." We've all had those moments where we feel this push and echo, something telling us to just keep going, even when we don't know why or how. Maybe it was a loved one's memory. Maybe it's something more. But Mauro, what do you think? Today, he's back in Italy, still running, still chasing challenges. But Mauro will never forget the echo that pulled him from the edge. Bonus story. This story takes us to the bustling city of Miami, Florida on a seemingly ordinary morning. December 1972. Wilmer McLean, 47 years old. He's an accountant, father of two. He's packing his suitcase for a much-needed vacation with his family. They were headed to Chicago to spend the holidays with relatives, a trip they'd planned for months. Wilmer wasn't a morning person by any stretch. His wife often joked that he'd sleep through an earthquake if given the chance. We've all been there. Hitting snooze one too many times, dragging ourselves out of bed, cursing the alarm for daring to interrupt our dreams. That was Wilmer on December 29th, 1972, as he overslept, missing the family's tight schedule to get to Miami International Airport for Eastern Airlines Flight 401. But that frustrating, mundane mistake was about to save his life. Wilmer's wife, Ellen, had tried to wake him at 5 a.m. sharp. Their flight was at 9:05 p.m. that evening, but they needed to drive an hour to the airport, navigate holiday crowds, and check in early. Wilmer groaned, rolled over, and mumbled, 5 more minutes, please. Those 5 minutes turned into an hour. By the time he stumbled out of bed, blurry-eyed and apologetic, they were already behind. Ellen, his wife, furious. The kids were cranky, and Wilmer felt like the world's worst husband. When you've let someone down, especially your family, over something so small, that was Wilmer, rushing to throw clothes into a bag, promising to make it right. They all pile into the car. But traffic was a nightmare. By the time they reached the airport, it was too late. Flight 401 had boarded, the gate was closed, and they missed it. Wilmer felt defeated. Ellen was near tears, angry. The kids whined about missing their cousins, and the family had to scramble for a later flight the next day, costing extra money that they didn't have. Wilmer took the blame, sitting in the airport lounge, head in his hands, replaying every snooze button that he had pressed earlier. But as they waited for updates, something chilling unfolded. News started trickling in over the airport speakers and flickering TV screens. Eastern Airlines Flight 401, the very flight that they'd missed, had crashed into the Florida Everglades, less than 20 miles from the airport. The Lockheed L-1011 TriStar, carrying 163 passengers, 13 crew members, had descended too low during its approach due to a pilot error with the autopilot system, slamming into the swampy terrain. The impact, catastrophic. Of the 176 people on board, 101 perished instantly or in the hours that followed, making it one of the deadliest crashes in U.S. history at the time. Wilmer and his family sat in the stunned silence as the news anchors reported the tragedy. Survivors were being airlifted from the wreckage, but the images of the twisted metal and rescue boats in the dark swamp painted a grim picture. Ellen gripped Wilmer's hand, whispering, "That could have been us." The weight of it hit him like a freight train. His oversleeping, that frustrating, embarrassing mistake, had kept him off a doomed flight. Can you imagine that moment? This surreal shift from guilt to gratitude, realizing that a tiny misstep saved your entire family? Wilmer later told a local reporter, "I felt like someone or something hit the snooze button for me. I don't know why we were spared, but I'll never take a late start for granted again." The crash of Flight 401 became infamous, not just for its toll, but for the eerie aftermath. Survivors and investigators reported these strange occurrences. Some claimed to see apparitions of crew members in the Everglades, and there were whispers of ghostly sightings on other Eastern Airlines flights, as if the lost souls lingered. Wilmer didn't dwell on those stories, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something beyond chance had delayed him. Was it pure luck? No. A guardian angel? Possibly. Maybe it was the chaos of life working in this mysterious way. It's interesting to think that the things we find ourselves getting upset about could be the things that are protecting us from something else. That's where Wilmer was, grappling with a second chance that he didn't ask for. In the days after, Wilmer and his family took the next flight to Chicago, shaken, but very much alive. That holiday was bittersweet, filled with hugs a little tighter, laughter a little louder, and Wilmer became a man obsessed with time after that, setting multiple alarms, never risking a late start again. But in quiet moments, as he shared in a 1973 interview with the Miami Herald, he'd wonder about the 101 souls who didn't make it. I overslept for them too, he said. I live for them now. Decades later, Wilmer's story is a lesser-known footnote to the tragedy of Flight 401, but it's a powerful reminder that sometimes the smallest mishaps, those frustrating human errors we make, can be the echo of something even greater, pulling us back from the brink. Wilmer, Lynn, Mauro, their stories leave you wondering, what is even out there? Beyond what we can see or touch, that steps in when we're at our lowest. 3 near-death experiences, 3 echoes from nowhere, 3 lives saved against impossible odds. These are the kinds of mysteries that we chase here. These stories remind us of our own fragility, but also our own strength. The times that we've all felt like we're hanging by a thread, yet somehow, some way, we make it through. And I know you've experienced that feeling. But if you've ever experienced something unexplainable, a moment where you have felt guided or even saved, I would love to hear about it. Join the Mortals community. Link is in the description. Your story might be the one that saves someone else, or I tell next. Sharing these moments connects us, and they make us feel a little less alone in this wild and messy life. Don't forget, Breakthrough drops June 27th. The song anyone who has faced the impossible will love. I have poured my own struggles into this song those nights that I didn't feel like I'd see the other side, just like so many of you may have faced. Music is how I process, it's how I deal, and it's how I hope that I can be that support for you by sharing this song, Breakthrough. Link to pre-save is in the description, and be sure to stream my existing songs wherever you listen to music, because your support keeps this podcast alive and keeps the lights on. Thank you for that. You're listening to The Mortals. Until next time, remember, I promise you, you're loved far more than you could ever know. Take care of yourself.